Thanks, Ricky. I've been in the aviation business in northeastern Ohio for almost 30 years now, and the issue of airport closures, and mostly referencing Burke, as everybody's aware, and as Ricky told you earlier, has been raised and talked about and set aside and thought about some more and raised again, etc. But one of the things that I think it's really important to emphasize, and Ricky made the point, is that in dealings with the Federal Aviation Administration, they have a great amount of concern about handling traffic that is either using the airports in northeastern Ohio, but is also above the airports in northeastern Ohio. It's a fairly little known fact, even though it's been publicized a lot more since the year 2000, that the airspace above all of our airports, Hopkins, Burke County, going as far south as Medina, as far west as Lorain County, Willoughby's Lost Nation, is the busiest airspace in the country, and FAA will tell you it's the busiest airspace in the world. That's because you get above 30,000 feet, then everything that's handled by the FAA's Oberlin Air Traffic Control Center for a 5-state region and part of Canada is flying through that airspace. So they are very, very concerned about the throughput capacity, the ability to move planes on time through that airspace. Then that kind of microscopes down from the higher altitudes to the lower altitudes, in which, okay, how do you keep that higher altitude airspace moving if you're the FAA and that's one of your primary concerns, moving it efficiently and moving safely? Well, you got to have the airports on the ground below the busiest airspace moving traffic as efficiently as they can. How do you do that? If you're Cleveland Hopkins, you've added capacity over a number of years. Ricky spoke about the project that's underway now and will be finished next year as the last piece of a capacity and international service capability puzzle that had been discussed for many years at Hopkins. But there is a new runway on the ground at Hopkins that was put in place in 2003 that has added capacity to the airfield, added to the abilities for air traffic controllers to move planes into and out of Hopkins efficiently. But again, going to another point that was made, that added capacity can be incrementally eroded if, for example, one or two or several of the satellite airports or reliever airports were either to be constrained in some kind of way or to close wherever else. The traffic will migrate back to Hopkins. In surveying the users of these airports in the past, and said if the airport closed tomorrow, where would you go? Somewhere from 60 to 75% of them have always said we're going back to Hopkins. Small planes mixing with the large planes, and that just gives you basically a slowdown of the ability of air traffic controllers to move. So you have to also look at it from the FAA's perspective in that they are very, very concerned when they hear about the closure or potential closure of an airport. And the question they come back to the community at large with is, how are you going to assure us that the investment that we've made in northeastern Ohio, new runway, over $100 million, et cetera, is not going to waste, and how are you going to assure us that in the future that you're going to be able to move traffic? And one of the ways you do that is basically looking at the airports within your region and making sure that they're operating to the most efficient and safest way that they can.
I just want to get a clarifying point from Khalid. How many planes are coming in and out of Burke a day? You don't have to get up to answer that question. If you can answer it quickly.
We do about 80,000 operations a year, a few hundred a day.
A few hundred a day. And Kevin Delaney, if you can talk about the capacity and the ability to handle overflow capacity at Cuyahoga County.
Sure, on more or less the micro level as opposed to the macro level. The county has the ability to, or more or less the capacity of 195,000 aircraft annual operations. We have 60,000 today, but we would not be able to acquire as much as Burke has. Due to weight limitations and runway constraints.
Okay, thank you. I think we have a question in the back. And if you could identify yourself, sir, too.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Ken Roberts. I'm councilman in the village of Highland Hills, Ohio. I've got a couple of quick questions. First of all, I want to thank all of you for talking to each other and working together. That's what this has to be about. The second point that I would like to ask the question is, all of you are engaged in strategic planning activities at this point. programs? Are we dealing with and are identifying those organizations that are both people of color and women-owned businesses and bringing that into the future also, because that, when you look at the demographics of this region, that's what it is. Lots of different groups, but we cannot continue to do business with one group. I would just ask all of you one big question. Everybody raise your hand in the room if you got all of your children living in this city. So in other words, what we're saying is that opportunity is elsewhere, and many of our children have left. How do we bring it back? And that's what business opportunity.
Councilman Roberts, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Councilman Roberts from Highland Hills. Ricky Smith, there are a couple questions there. One about the importance of local vendors, and another about minority-owned businesses and women-owned businesses. Can you address both of those, please, and then anybody else is able to address them as well?
Okay, I can probably address both of those questions in one answer. You are on point that that we're fortunate. I'm sorry. I'll try to answer both of those questions in one answer. The councilman makes a good point that we're going through a period where there is enormous investment in the airport system, which renders a great number of opportunities, business opportunities for not just residents of Cleveland, but residents of the region. And if you look at the procurements that we've gone out on the street with, the contracts and our approach to purchasing goods and services, we've had very strong requirements for local and minority business participation. The city of Cleveland itself has a very, very strong program. There are a number of ordinances that require everything from minority business participation to local or residential participation in contracting and in hiring practices. I'll just give one example. The concessions RFP that I mentioned earlier, that the council, that the chairman of the aviation committee alluded to as well, is one of the largest economic development opportunities that this city will see for some time, $300 to $450 million. We have requirements in that RFP that at least, not at most, but at least 30% of all the business opportunities that come out of that have to go to minorities, okay? We also have requirements that we want local and regional concepts to be in the airport. And so, so we pay very close attention to making sure that local residents as well as minorities benefit from these opportunities. It's all about spreading the wealth. And if we're not doing that, then we're not making the economic impact that we should be. So from an airport perspective, yes, we're doing everything we can. The mayor won't let me stand here long if I don't accomplish that. So trust me, we are doing that.